Croeso I sianel Blaid Llwyd. Welcome to Adastra. We're back with Interea. I know Dirk and Fallen have both done their videos. I'm a bit behind on this one, but I knew I'd get to it eventually. So of course we're going to pick things up where we left them last, and if you remember, we just got to the villa. So let's find out what that's like. The villa is surprisingly lavish. I'm not sure I was expecting, but after seeing the somewhat barren streets of Lux, I assumed it would be less decked out than the palace in Adastra City. Wow, this is really nice.
It is.
Amicus seems as taken aback as I am. Haven't you been here before? This is where you stay when you're in Lux, right? Amicus seems embarrassed.
Well, actually, I've never stayed here myself. This is my first visit to Lux as Emperor. My previous visits in my youth never lasted longer than a day. Well, Cassius is likely familiar with the place, though.
I turn my attention back to the villa. It's decorated and furnished to an extent that's even more extravagant than the palace. Though, to be fair, the palace is not that extravagant, and that was intentional. Its spare and utilitarian design is meant to appear at least somewhat approachable to the common wolf. We go about settling in, and Amicus raids the pantry and the kitchen, returns with a bottle of wine and a smaller bottle of what I assume is Verdi. The drink made mostly with the juice of a cucumber-like fruit. Amicus knows it's my favourite drink on Adastra, though its pink hue tells me it's a flavour I haven't tried before. We settle on our reclining couches, which I notice are made with gold trim and polished wood. Your grandfather Vitus, right? Amicus seems to perk up immediately.
Oh yes, Vitus. You've learned of him.
I hold back a wince, forgetting I hadn't told Amicus about how far I'd gotten in Adastra a history quite yet. I quickly move on so he doesn't dwell on it. Just a little bit. I just remember they ended up getting rid of most expensive stuff owned by the family and gave it to the people or something.
He did. About a century ago, the palace had far more decorations and murals. It was a very important step forward in the imperial family's relationship with the people.
Amicus swigs from his bottle, and I do the same from mine. I can tell the pinkish colour of the liquid is probably from flower petals, since the drink has a distinct floral taste about it. Even though it makes me think of walking through a perfume cloud with my mouth open, the chilled drink is still refreshing, as long as that imagery isn't in my mind. Well, I guess I'd have thought that might be the case for villas too, especially in a region as poor as Lux. They don't have much wealth here, right?
Well, the mines and factories are prosperous enough. The issue is how the wealth is then distributed to the people. Unfortunately, the people of Lux seem intent on voting for the most extreme politicians, who then tend to be the most corrupt. It's a self-inflicted misery, unfortunately.
I instinctively blanch at his reasoning, but I don't want to get into another argument. Amicus had seen my reaction well enough, though.
Well, I don't have to tell you once again, you can speak freely with me, Tibor.
I know that, but lately I've been feeling more and more like I don't know what I'm talking about. I know, but I need to remember that Adastra isn't Earth, and sometimes it feels like it isn't my place.
But it is. I want a human perspective.
Well, just remember it's only my perspective.
Alright.
I think when you say it's self-inflicted, it feels like you're just blaming them for a situation that isn't really their fault.
Yes, I understand that. What I said is mostly out of frustration. It's difficult to sway these people, and at times I'm at a loss for what to do about the Lux problem.
Well, make sure you stop calling it the Lux problem, first of all.
I'll never say that out loud to anyone else, of course.
But someone might hear you. We both know there can be ears anywhere.
Well, I suppose you're right, but that doesn't fix the actual issue.
Have you tried building a better relationship with Lux?
Of course. Well, like I said, the funds we send them end up in pockets we cannot trace. Attempts to regulate or even withhold funds end in riots. Attempts to purge unqualified politicians from the ballots end in riots. Really, any attempts to make Lux resemble a civilized Adastrian city end in riots do not end until Adastra gives in to their demands. Well, tell me, what the hell am I supposed to do to make them understand that Adastra simply wants what is best for them?
Amicus's frustration is palpable, but despite his annoyed and growling tone, I know it's not directed at me. Another reason I don't feel qualified to judge or tell him what to do is because I know he spends most of his time thinking about things that I can only chime in on, which I imagine is a bit irritating. He seems to be genuinely seeking my advice, so I try. From what I understand, a lot of the problems in Lux come from its isolation, right?
Well, I would say so, yes.
Oh, I think a few centuries back an emperor tried to calm the rebellious spirit of Luxians by importing large amounts of hard liquor into the city, which I can't imagine had a good effect on the people.
I do not recall that policy. Did Com tell you that?
I remember I need to tell Amicus I'm using Kemian records to get a better context for Astrastrian history. Just not right now, with all this other crap going on. Yeah, I think so. Either way, maybe you can try to address those problems. How do you usually get from one city to another?
Oh, well, through flight, of course.
Can a Luxian afford that?
No, most cannot. Most travel is done by automated chariots. Though from Lux, I believe you must travel on foot out of the mountains first.
I frown. Aren't the chariots really slow?
Well, they're twice that of walking speed. This would take about 2 weeks to travel from here to Adastra City. So, not terrible.
How do they transport all the raw materials from the mining or the goods from the factories?
Those are moved by foot and chariot to a major river, then placed on boats.
Do people travel on the boats?
No, the boats are only for the transportation of goods and resources. The river only connects to Drachelli. They refine the resources and distribute the goods to other cities. What are you going on about, anyway?
Trying to figure out how people get around on Adastra. From all I can tell, the main problem here is how isolated it is. On Earth, if a state wants to unify its people, it connects its people. That's usually done through roads, trains, aircraft. You know, general public transport. Sounds like Adastra doesn't really have that.
Ah, yes, well, we already have the roads and they've served us well for thousands of years.
And they only serve slow chariots. I'm not sure how the parents work, or maybe you can ask Kimi for help, but high-speed transportation of the general public would probably be my first step. Amicus stares at me and I shake my head. Sorry, I don't know much about what's possible, so I probably sound crazy right now.
Well, it's certainly not an easy or quick proposition, but it's something that can be looked into. I appreciate the idea, though one of the reasons we never pursue a better connection with Lux is because its people do not seem to want one.
Well, maybe it's because they feel so isolated, like they're not part of Adastra. Over time, that could change.
Well, I suppose that could be the case. I'll ask some of the others about it.
Maybe we can ask Magus, since he's coming with us now. Amicus shifts, looking a bit embarrassed at the mention of the other wolf, and I feel bad bringing him up.
Yes, that will likely be necessary.
I'm tired of talking politics, and Amicus seems to just be tired, so I get up and join him on his own couch, and he sets aside his wine to hold me close to him. I feel the hardness of his cape's clasp against my head. I help him pull the red fabric over his head, careful to set aside his golden crown first. It's slightly bent out of shape, I assume from the fight. I don't mention as he pulls me back in against his body. I begin to gently rub his chest and stomach, running my hands over his thick pecs and down his padded stomach, which I'm sure is still aching. We're both already falling asleep, so I give him a light version of my usual rub-down. I listen to his breathing and notice his pants crotch bulging just slightly. But I can tell he's too tired for any serious action tonight.
Well, thank you for speaking candidly with me, Tibor. You always have fantastic insight.
Thanks. You're doing a fantastic job as an emperor. Amicus looks at me in a way that tells me that made him a bit emotional. I rub my head against his chest, and before long we're both drifting off to sleep. Amicus dreams heavily that night, several different scenes flashing through his mind. one in which his father chides him for his loss against Magis, another in which Virginia is berating him for failing to unify Adastra, and finally one where Tibor stands in a large, cavernous room filled with other humans. Amicus can tell that Tibor is distressed, looking unsure, hesitant, and Amicus wants to help him, but he's not able to speak because he isn't there. These dreams are typical. The last one transitions into something that isn't a dream, something that Amicus is becoming more familiar with as the parents exert their influence more and more. And it's about Tibor. Amicus startles awake, looking down to confirm Tibor is there with him, feeling immense relief when he does. And he hears what awoke him. A knocking sound on the door. Amicus pauses, then whispers at the ceiling. "Com?" "Yes, Amicus?" Com whispers back, leaving Amicus grateful that amongst the expensive decor they'd also installed a PA system. "Who's at the door?" Amicus is careful to keep his voice low as Tibor shifts around against his body. Though he's mostly adjusted to Adastran hours, Tibor still sleeps a bit longer than the average wolf. Amicus has to assume it's because humans need it. "The Pharaoh's second son, the Pharaoh, and the Chemian ambassador to Adastra, Brunis." Amicus feels slightly annoyed, then moderately annoyed as the knocking sounds again, this time a bit louder, making Tibor stir once more. Gently, Amicus removes himself from the couch, keeping the human propped up before slowly laying him back against the cushions. Deciding to forego his cape and crown for now, the wolf strides to the front door of the estate, pulling it open quickly. The rush of frigid air almost takes Amicus's breath away after spending so much time in the climate-controlled villa. Amicus can tell immediately something bad has happened just by looking at the Pharaoh's face. Despite his initial annoyance, Amicus feels a prickle of worry that could have something to do with the delegation.
"What happened?"
The Pharaoh stays quiet, on the verge of pouting. Amicus has never seen the jackal sulk in such a way. It's Brunis who finally speaks for him, when it's clear that the Pharaoh isn't going to.
"Well, just out getting breakfast when we were harassed, I guess."
Amicus clenches his jaw tightly for just a second.
"And?" "Well, I started pelting the Pharaoh here with, I don't know, fruit or vegetables or something."
Amicus bites his tongue to hold back from cursing.
"What about the curfew?"
"I came from one of the windows, went back to our flat, then somebody did start coming out and forming a crowd at our door, demanding we hand over the Pharaoh." Amicus closes his eyes, leaning against the door frame, easily able to picture the scene.
"Drones came in and stunned most of them. Then we told it'd be best for the Pharaoh not to stay in the city." "Oh, damn it!"
Amicus squeezes his eyes shut, hoping that somehow word hasn't spread of the incident. "Oh, don't worry yourself. I seemed satisfied enough when I was escorted from the city. There were no further issues from what I was able to tell."
"Yeah, it was real isolated. Wasn't enough to get a big crowd going."
Still, Amicus knows the optics are not good. Amicus turns his attention to the Pharaoh, seeing the jackal is trembling ever so slightly under his tensed-up muscles.
"Are you injured?"
"I know."
"I mean, they nailed you pretty good in the head a few times, if it was just rotten fruit."
"I am fine." The Pharaoh's tone is flat but slightly dark. Amicus can tell the jackal would like not to be visible at the moment. The wolf knows the feeling quite well himself.
"Alright, well, you're welcome to stay here. There's a spare room toward the back of the villa. What about you, Brunis?"
"Yeah, I'll probably share in that room with Neff, but I'll go back first and get our stuff."
"Was that safe?"
"Yeah, he's getting it, but I'll meet him halfway since he wants to know a bit more about what happened." It's quite clear to Amicus that Brunis wants to give the Pharaoh time alone to sulk.
"Well, alright. Let me know if any other issues arise and I shall deal with them."
"Of course, Your Majesty." Brunis bows as he backs away, muttering a "see you later, Neff," as he does. "Yes, see ya." Amicus stands before the Pharaoh, the jackal's stiff posture making even the wolf feel awkward. While there are many things about the Pharaoh that irritates Amicus, he can at least admit the Chemian has a knack for making things not awkward. slightly unsettling. Amicus clears his throat and steps aside, indicating the pharaoh should enter.
So, do you wish to speak more on the matter?
No.
Well, the room is right over there.
Amicus gestures to the doorway visible from the villa entrance. Thank you. Apologies again for bringing complications to.
Well, never mind that. Go get settled.
Why, of course, Your Majesty. The pharaoh's voice is slightly mocking in response to Amicus's more commanding tone. The return of the pharaoh's irritating, cheeky nature, brief as it may be, is enough to put Amicus at ease. That whatever happened, the pharaoh will get over it. Now he just has to worry about whether or not Lux will get over it.
Well, you'll have to place yourself for the morning. Tibor and I are going out.
Not into the city, I assume?
Of course not, especially after what happened. It's a private outing.
Enjoy yourselves, then. Amicus watches the jackal go, letting out a long exhale of breath, which reflects his feeling of being deflated. Sapiens like the pharaoh, the ones that rarely admit to what they're feeling, to what they're thinking, are frustrating to the wolf. So much for Chemian bluntness. While he tolerates the pharaoh's behaviour in Adastra City, or at least is only mildly annoyed by it, it's a different issue out in these less civilised population centres. The wolf feels his insides turn with anxiety, wishing prepared better for this mission. He rubs his stomach, still sore from yesterday's Pugnu match. He'd have to call a meeting later today so he can start keeping tabs on everyone. For now, he needs to take Tibor to the Hotsprings like he promised. I hold on to Amicus's paw as we make our way up the side of the mountain. And I thought I was underprepared yesterday. My sandals threaten to slip with every step. After I stub my toe on one of the rocks, Amicus just picks me up. I don't mind at all, especially since no one's around to see it.
How do you humans get around? Is Earth a perfect sphere with no geological features?
Well, I keep my arms wrapped firmly around Amicus's neck as he piggybacks me up the rugged and uneven climb. If I were dressed the right way with the right kind of shoes, this would be less of a problem.
Well, I hope you bring all these things with you when you return.
I'll make a mental note to do that. While the Chemian drone continues to keep me warm, Amicus's warmth is much more welcoming. I press my face against the back of his neck. The wolf trudges along in the foggy silence for a while. I'm just content to lose myself in the hypnotic bouncing. After a while I start to recognise the sulphuric smell that reminds me of the baths back at the palace.
I shouldn't be long now. The hot springs are the main draw for tourism in this region. Most artificial baths are modelled after the composition of Luxian springs. It's healing for the body and the mind.
Well, I can't wait. I've never really believed in the supposed ability of Adastran mineral water to heal physical ailments, but I can't argue with the mental part. After Amicus told me about what happened in the pharaoh, I wanted to invite him to go with us. But I didn't think that either of my canine friends would have wanted that. Soon enough I start to see clouds of steam, and eventually the pathway leads to a scenic outlook, one with a crystal clear spring right in the middle of it.
Oh look, they even prepared our towels.
He gestures to the bucket with towels beside it, even spot a few bottles stood up by the edge. There's a giddiness in the wolf's voice I haven't heard in a good while, and I smiled at Amicus's pup-like excitement. Amicus sets me down on the stony ground and begins to strip off his clothes. I do the same, though not quite at the same frantic pace. I only remove my robe when Amicus does something else he hasn't done in a while. I look up in time to see the wolf leap into the hot spring, seeming without any care in the world. Again, it's nice to see, and to know that Amicus is willing to act this way in front of me means a lot. I'm the only one. I'm also a bit worried because I'm not sure if he knows it's really a safe thing to do, especially in a natural swing. The moment unfreezes, a moment that lasted less than a second before he hits the water. Amicus comes up quickly.
Head up, Paul, that's hot.
His voice is full of pleasure, though. Amicus reclines against the edge of the spring, laughing in such a relieved, satisfied way that I'm eager to go in myself. Amicus looks up at me.
So, are you coming in to join me, Tibor?
I sidle up the edge of the spring and Amicus eyes my more cautious approach.
Well, I recommend the, what you call it, cannonball technique. It's a bit hotter than the palace bath.
Okay. I finally set aside my worries, telling myself to just lighten up, though I do look where I'm going to land to make sure there's no rocks poking up. Then I jump. He's right about the heat, and for just a moment I panic a bit. Within seconds, before I even surface, the burn settles into a pleasant warmth and instantly seeps into my muscles. When I come back up, the first thing I notice is how little the water stings my eyes. It's only that, but it feels better. It might all be in my head. There's a silky quality to the water. I can immediately see why this is preferred over the artificial baths. Amicus smiles at me.
Well, quite pleasant, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of amazing, actually.
Well, nothing beats the real thing. Oh, God, I needed this.
After seeing the stiff, rigid way he carries himself all the time to become an emperor, it's nice to see him relax. Makes me a little bit emotional, which catches me by surprise. I want Amicus to be at ease all the time. To know that he's always stressed now makes me sad.
Are you alright, love?
Yeah, I'm good. This is great. Amicus looks at me for a good long moment, then sighs.
Oh, I suppose I should just admit I came here for my own selfish reasons. I didn't even ask if you wanted to come.
No, I'm happy to be here, Amicus, especially with you.
Well, I don't want to say you're hiding something from me. You looked a bit upset just now. Was it Neferu?
That also catches me by surprise. Oh no, I thought about asking to invite him, but didn't idea you would care for it.
Alright.
Seeing Amicus's tense demeanour returning, I decided to just tell him. Okay, seeing you so relaxed and happy made me happy. I'm also kind of sad 'cause you don't look that way very often anymore.
Oh, is that all? Oh, don't worry about me, Tibor. It's all part of the job. All things must come to an end, and that includes puphood. I'm happy to indulge in it once in a while, though.
Are there any natural springs near Adastra City?
Well, no, at least none worth your time, anyway.
Amicus runs his paw through his fur.
I already feel it nourishing my fur. I'm sure it's the same for you as well.
I reach up and feel my hair. It does feel softer, as if I just shampooed and conditioned it. Huh.
Well, like I said, it has healing properties, and, well, some say it has an effect on libido as well.
I raise an eyebrow at Amicus.
Uh-huh. Indeed.
I notice a dark length beginning to rise between Amicus's legs. I try not to smile at how quickly he's worked himself up. We weren't able to make love last night, after all.
Do you know what would really relax me?
I frown, still playing along. Amicus, if you're going to say sex, that's not a true statement at all.
Well, after the fact, I mean.
Well, I know rubbing that body of yours tends to get you relaxed. Maybe we can start with that. I didn't get to really give it to you last night. That immediately seems to get the wolf going.
Yeah, well, I don't want this to be one-sided.
It's not. I love rubbing down your body.
Well, why is that?
I can tell I'm pushing my wolf's buttons, so I push further. Because I like to feel your big, strong body and imagine what you're about to do to me with it.
Well, why don't you come over here and show me how you like to feel me?
Amicus leans back further, exposing his torso to me. Despite not having been in the mood just minutes ago, I definitely am now. I slowly start to pull myself away from my end of the spring. I wonder how long you'll be able to restrain yourself this time.
Well, let's find out.
Good morning. We both jump and Amicus immediately covers up his now very prominent cock poking up out of the water. I quickly lean back against the ledge, trying to make things look casual, though Amicus's reaction ruined any chance of that. Even I'm a little bit surprised by how violently he covered himself up. I suppose we don't know much about this Magis guy, to be fair. Amicus tries to keep his heave and breath under control as Magus lowers himself to his smaller pool next to ours. Good morning to you as well, Tibor. Oh, sorry if I startled you. I was just soaking in the spring further up the trail. I didn't notice anything unusual, or he's pretending. I feel like it must be the latter. Oh, no, just a little surprise is all.
Yeah, so I told the springs will be private for the day.
I want to tell Amicus to be a little more polite, considering this man is one of the triumvirs of Lux, and he'll be travelling with us the rest of the mission. I also understand why Amicus is as agitated as he is. Interrupted in the middle of a very private moment by the man who humiliated him yesterday. Of course, I'll be taking my leave soon enough. I just wanted to make sure the accommodations are to your liking. He indicates the buckets, towels, and drinks. That, and I thought I might take the opportunity to get to know the head of the delegation and his companion a bit better. Amicus takes a deep breath, possibly to make it more clear to the wolf he's not interested in doing that at the moment. I finally speak up to hopefully distract Magus from Amicus's rudeness. Yeah, it's great. Thank you, Magus. Oh, of course, Tibor. I was not aware of your favourite drink, so I settled on Verdi, since I understand not everyone enjoys their alcohol. That's perfect, actually. Oh, thanks again.
Oh yes, the drinks are fantastic. It was good to speak to you today, Magus, but my companion and I were discussing some private matters.
Oh, of course, I'll be on my way, but I did want to ask. Are you quite all right after our bout yesterday? I know you assured us of your wellness, but after reflecting on it overnight, I wanted to make sure. Amicus stares straight ahead, into the distance, as if not acknowledging that Magus' touch him will allow him to pretend it's not happening.
Well, as I said yesterday, I'm perfectly fine. Well, thank you.
Yes, I only ask again due to the fact I understand the issue of optics when it comes to being a high-ranked official, especially when you're in Lux. This seems to finally break Amicus' dwindling patience.
You forget yourself, Magus. The position of Triumvirate is quite different from that of Emperor. I say what I mean.
I feel a sinking feeling in my chest as Amicus drops all attempts at appearing proper. I completely understand Amicus' frustration right now, but Magus' sincere tone is, as far as I can tell, completely genuine. As then I need to alleviate the situation somehow. Amicus, you are forgetting yourself. I adopt a more chiding tone, wanting to keep the feel of the situation more light-hearted. Please excuse our Emperor, we were up very late last night. I feel that's the best explanation I can make up. It's a childish one, but that's the point. While I am Amicus' companion, and far more than that, I still need to take care not to forget myself. I need to keep Amicus looking good, even while criticising him. I can do that by making myself seem frivolous, stupid even. I just need to give Magus an excuse to be distracted from Amicus' flippant professionalism. I feel like I did a mostly good job considering Amicus just continues to stare at a place somewhere to my left and over my head. I see. I do apologize for imposing myself upon you. I should have taken advantage of the situation in such a way. Again, his sincerity is striking, and that's unusual. Maybe that's why Amicus is so cold. He doesn't fully trust this wolf. You didn't take any advantage of the situation. It's just an inconvenient time, unfortunately. I glance at Amicus before continuing. Why don't we meet later for lunch or dinner? There's a pause if we're both waiting for confirmation from Amicus. How about dinner? Seems he decided my word is good enough. The Triumvir agrees. I would be honoured. Magus rises out of his spring, water splashing off of his fur. Usually when a furred creature gets wet, their overall stature becomes less impressive. Cassius and Alex come to mind. But for Amicus and for Magus, it turns out the opposite is true. I can see why his kicks have been so powerful. Amicus glances at him and then at me, so I quickly avert my gaze. I don't want to give Amicus any more reason to feel inadequate, even if that's not a good reason. I'll meet you at your villa, if that's all right. 13th hour? When there's no input from Amicus, I agree. Yeah, that sounds good. All right, I'll see you then. Have a nice soak, Your Highness. With that, Magus disappears around the trail. I assume to where his own towel is stashed. It's silent for a few minutes, then I sigh. Amicus, that was terrible.
Oh, I know.
He's grumpy now, so I know we aren't going to pick up where we left off. At least you can try to salvage something over dinner.
Yeah.
It's quiet for a bit, then Amicus huffs.
Well, thank you, Tibor. I was not handling that well.
Happens to the best of us. I think you should at least give the guy a chance.
Or maybe. I just need more time after yesterday.
Of course. While the mood is ruined, I tell myself they could have been worse. When we return to the villa, I can immediately tell that something's wrong. Yanni's there looking more upset than I've ever seen him. That's not saying much, but considering he's almost defaults to a professional, cheerful demeanour, it's obvious that something is very wrong. I think I have a good idea where it might be, and as soon as Yanni starts talking, I'm proved right.
Your Highness, it seems the situation in the city has become tense after the issue with the Chemians. Of course it has. There are rumours that a concerted protest being planned around the 12th hour. What's the actual issue? Does somebody want the Chemians gone, or...? The issue has become broader since then. While the initial complaints centered around the Chemians supposedly turning their noses up at Luxian culture. Of course. Now it's more about why you, the Emperor, would bring them along. Of course.
It's quiet for a moment. Is there something we can do to appease them? Yanni looks over at me, then sighs as he puts away his portal.
It's difficult to say. Once Luxians set their minds on something, especially something that makes them upset, it's hard to dissuade them.
Or if Nefero or Brunus apologise? Not that they should apologise for anything, but maybe that'll be enough to calm the people?
No, that'll only make them more upset. Chemians come off as condescending whenever they're apologising.
I know it's likely only due to the wolves' inferiority complex. I don't say it out loud, of course. And Nefero and Brunus here. I look around and notice the door to the spare bedroom is still closed.
Yes, the Brunus wanted a private moment with Nefero.
I look at the closed door, feeling incredibly sorry for the jackal at the moment. I wonder if Nefero will even be up for the trip to Lupus tomorrow. That'll be even more difficult for the two of us, though in a different way.
I regret to say, but it might be best to simply leave within a few hours.
My heart sinks into my stomach at hearing that. Amicus seems to have the same feeling.
No, I cannot leave this city worse than it was when I arrived. That would be an absolute failure on Adastra's part. I must make a speech or something.
I agree, but I'm not sure what else can be done. The longer we stay, the more time the city has to fester in its anger.
But I must.
Based on my teachings, I know that more than a few emperors have lost their lives in this city. While the last time was at least a few thousand years ago, the city hasn't changed all that much since, and I feel a great deal of worry for my wolf. He's right, Amicus. If this city can get as bad as you say, it'd be too dangerous for you to try and calm them. Also worried his skill in rhetoric isn't good enough for this situation. He's good, but not as good as... Amicus, what the hell? I'm absent for less than a single day and the city is ready for a riot. He barged in without any of us hearing it.
Yes, now is not the time.
Now is the time, Amicus. Lux will tear itself apart over this.
What? Our perceived insults from the Chemians are like they didn't happen in the first place?
No, Amicus, over rumours. What actually happened doesn't matter. What does matter is now they're saying Nefero spat on the food offered to him.
Gods.
Amicus takes a deep breath.
Well, I suppose I should prepare myself to give some sort of speech.
Are you serious, Amicus?
Of course.
You idiot.
Shut the hell up, Cass. You don't understand.
I understand far more about this city than you ever will. Cassius' screeching voice reverberates on the villa in the most grating way possible as the Amicus lowers his ears in response. Now Cassius takes a deep breath. They will kill you if you set foot in the amphitheatre alone.
Drones will protect him.
Yanni chimes in from the sidelines in his usual cheerful way. Oh yes, that'll lead to such a rebellion the city will once again declare itself an independent city-state. Good luck trying to repair at any point during your rule, Amicus. Amicus finally seems to relent.
Alright then, do you have anything to propose yourself, Cassius?
Cassius goes quiet for a few moments, seeming to gather his thoughts. You can tell what he says next takes a good deal of effort on his part. Then he sags a bit. I suppose you could say my performance yesterday was not adequate. He pauses as if waiting for Amicus to say something, though the other wolf remains quiet. Therefore, you might say that at least a small part of this is my fault. Another pause, but Amicus just waits. A very small part, but a part nonetheless. Therefore, I shall give another speech. Finally, Amicus shows some surprise at what Cassius just said. And the people shall be allowed to actually attend the speech. None of this curfew nonsense. This is part of the reason they are so upset.
Sure, I don't think I'd let you.
Oh, stop it, Amicus. I know what I'm doing.
Do you?
I've given speeches in Lux at least half a dozen times, so yes, I do. Amicus eyes Cassius carefully, as if unsure of the other wolf's intentions. Keep in mind, I want this mission to exceed anyway. It is here in Lux. I'll not be able to bring myself to leave this city the way it is now. I would at least like them to have a little hope for the future. That is all we can offer them at the moment. Maybe we could mention that infrastructure project we were talking about last night, Amicus.
Possibly. It might be a bit early for that, though.
What are you on about?
Well, we discussed tentative plans to better connect Lux to Adastra City, possibly by use of Chemian tech, but I don't think...
Cassius seems to be thinking deeply, much to my surprise. Actually, that does give me an idea. Where's the jackal?
Here in the villa. Why?
Summon him. I have an idea, but it involves bringing him and you along. Cassius looks directly at me. There we go. That was the latest Interea update. What has Cassius got planned now, I wonder? At least he's more on our side than he used to be back in the day. That always counts for something. But I think there might be a gap. We're probably going to get another Archers update before we get another Interea. I think Cowley's trying to alternate them, so that's what's going to be going on with that one. So we'll have to wait a bit to find out what's going on Dastra. But don't worry, I will definitely be doing that video whenever we get the update. And that is it for now. As I said, there'll be more Remember the Flowers coming up on the weekend. And also, Monchi just kind of teased a little bit about a new Tom update for Socially Awkward. So I'll keep an eye on that, and I'll try to get that in as soon as possible. So that might pop up at some point. I have no definite date on that, just to let you know. But to wrap up, thanks as always to my donors on Ko-fi and Patreon. I appreciate all of you. My top patrons are Marcus, Evan King, Monolay, Sindri Dragowolf, Kopi, Spiderling, Grizz, Dissonance, Brandon Bradford, Anubis Silverwind, Ida Corval, Tiger Cub, Gunnar Brian Hall, Bastion, Larkaskaton, Misuksu, Kopi's Visser, Kartek, and Burnt Toast. So if you want to support this channel, feel free to check out the description. I have a couple of links there. And also, of course, the links to all the Echo Project stuff, so you can support Howley with his stuff. Until the weekend, I'm off. So thanks for watching. Bye for now.